Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we talk about the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. A lot of stuff has been going on since my last recording, so just sort of inform everybody about stuff that's going on. Just been doing a lot of stuff for my dad. Also had a couple of things going like south at work, so that's sort of taking up my time. Trying to find a new job. That's just been a bit of a pain. Also, just having some dating stuff go down. Some of it was like, yay, great. Then other parts of it was like, ugh, like, oh gosh, why? So those things have sort of tied up my time and just really bad. So also, and this is sort of a minor mixed rant. There's really not that much in Superior Foes. I feel to mine from, and so I am going to talk about some of the stuff you can mine from the set, this show, but I'm a bit frustrated in the sense that I see where I'm attempting to see where they're going. You know, shorter dials, cheaper points, more characters. More of an army-based thing. Big guns are really big guns. So you know, there's that factor of them trying to balance out tent poles with everything else, and you know, I get it. I get it with his kids. I see what you're trying to do. But what's grabbing me is they've gone back to the well, and they were just like, oh yeah, we haven't done that in a while. That'll make them buy. That'll make them buy. And I really don't like it. And I don't know if I've said it before, but variants are the things that kill comic books. It really is what killed the comic book market. And for heroclix to go into that, and it's like, hey, here's a profit buy, you know, there's a variant of this character, and if you want to paint it, you can. And we just overlook the fact of how much, you know, money it saves us by putting everything in white plastic. You know, I just don't like it. And I understand, you know, a cost cut, you know, here and there. You know, you're still able to play the game. You know, Edward, do you really care about the painted miniature on top of your figure as long as the figure works the way it's supposed to? Somewhat no, I really don't care. But I also want the company to, you know, actually, you know, give a darn. And so that's just been frustrating. There's another element that's been going on, and I never thought that it would sort of catch up to me. Is I've actually started thinking more as a coach, and as a guy that runs a team. I don't do it alone. I'm not going to front on that. But there's things that have just, you know, come up. It's like, yeah, this is going to eat some time. This is going to eat a lot of time. And so there are some elements with that, you know, that the more people you add to a team, the more different things that you're trying to juggle and keep track of. So anyway, that's what's been going on. I still have this hopefully is the last week with my stuff with my dad being in the recovery from hip surgery. So yeah, hopefully that gets resolved this week. So all right, let's get into today's show. Let's talk about mining out superior foes and really getting the most you can out of this set. And yeah, let's just talk about that. First off, I'm gonna give a preface. Uh, Most of the things that I'm going to talk about are very niche, very niche. Um, the second is there really isn't anything in the set that completely changes how you play heroclix. I know Kevin DeFruz won Rock Nationals, or better, it should be called the West Coast Championship. Because when you look at the top 16, that's pretty much what it was. Um, if you look really closely at like Frogman, and it's like, oh cool, here's some cool exploit stuff that I found. And props to Kevin. I know someone pointed out like he pretty much just told everybody his team, which I heard in part, told people in part what his team was, and then went out there and executed it, which is it's a good accomplishment. I know the people that write for Majestic CCG do that all the time. So as long as what they're promoting, and what they're playing matches up, I'm gonna be like, yo, balls of steel, you know, good stuff there. So let's get started. Um, First off, I'm going to go just say like I really like um, I like an NYPD officer. Now, some of you might say like, why is that? PD and enhancement together is a very powerful combo, and I know you can easily get enhancement really cheap with Henry, and that does change a lot of things and how people actually look at the figure. But when you start really taking a closer look at NYPD Officer, uh, there are a bunch of cool things that he does, minus the trait. Just leave the trait alone. I almost wish the trait wasn't there, so it's maybe like 5 points cheaper. Um, but even then, it works really well. First off, you are able to sidestep, and for anybody that's run any sort of formation teams, the fact that you have a character on your force that's able to sidestep, get into position, so you can take that shot is important. And even more so, it's really important. Definitely if you have multiple range combat attackers, for you to have that character, both characters, getting the maximum damage output. And one thing that is really nice is you're able to say like, okay, you have two attackers, range attackers adjacent to each other, and if you have three PD officers, you're just able to have the first one attack and then have them all sort of sidestep over, and then you've got the other one maxed out damage as well. So that is a really big boon for you if you bought random boosters and you have a bunch of NYPD officers. This is some good stuff. Having three of these is not a bad thing. When we look at the trait, it says New York's finest. When another friendly character with a police team ability makes a range attack, NYPD officer can be within 5 squares of that character instead of adjacent to use the police team ability. So as long as you're able to draw a line of fire with your character, as long as the other character has the police team ability, um, you can use the NYPD officers. This really powers up wild cards. Now, I don't know if they want to clarify if you have to have it printed. Now, if you have to have it printed, that's a different story. But just being able to have a wild card to be able to utilize the PD ability from NYPD officer is really good. So, there we go. Next up is is Thug. And Thug is by far the most powerful thing that they've introduced into this set unknowingly. And you might say, well, that's a really strong statement, Dark Logos. And I'm like, yeah, it's for a reason. First off, when you look at Thug, Thug is 4 clicks deep, which means that there's a lot of characters that can't one-shot Thug. I mean, just look at it. The average damage is 3. If the average damage is 3 and he's 4 clicks deep, as long as you don't push Thug, the average character can't one-shot Thug, which means that most opponents are going to have to dedicate 2 attacks to kill Thug. That's 2 attacks. That's probably going to round out to being about 6 damage. So that's 6 damage that didn't hit your main attacker or your, support or anybody else. So right there, Thug is automatically meta. Okay. At how cheap he is, at 10 points. Next is always for hire. When building your force, choose a name keyword that at least 2 higher point characters on your team have. Thug has that keyword this game, but can't use theme team probability control. Alright, so here's the first thing. The fact that you can use this guy or these guys to just stack stupid amounts of 2 plus to map, just stacking plus to map, that's ridiculous. That's really, really important. Yes, the attack isn't that great. Yes, the damage isn't that great. The range isn't that great. Who cares? Who really cares? The fact is that if you have, let's say, 2 major characters with a name theme team keyword, and you're just like, I need 1 or 2 more figures to boost up my stats or to meet this requirement or that requirement. It's like Thug, and you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry too much about it. But then there's also like cool, very, very, very cool ATAs that you can also stack on top of it because Thug has that keyword this game. Okay, so now you can give him something like New Mutants. Like that is dumb. So I'll wait for how people exploit this. I see this as a mechanic that is great. I think that this is the most powerful thing that they've released in this set. And I don't think people understand how strong this is from a theme team perspective and from an ATA perspective. And I know some people might say, you're investing with ATA to get more, you're investing more points into what should be very streamlined. And I'm like, yeah, but if I'm able to multiply some already strong effects for cheap, such as heroes for hire, I'm going to do it. So that's the anyway. Like I said, I think that one is by far the strongest effect that you're going to get. J. Jonah Jameson, I'm the mayor of this town. Once per game, J. Jonah Jameson can use mind control regardless of point value. That's his trait, which is okay. Duck, Mr. Mayor. J. Jonah Jameson can use combat reflexes, energy shield deflection if he's adjacent to a friendly character. That just helps him stay alive, but really you need to have like defend on top of that so he can get higher defense values. Then you have this Superior Spider-Man is a hero. J. Jonah Jameson can use Perplex. When he does and targets a character with a Spider-Man family keyword or a Spider-Man ally team ability, you may modify any value except damage by +2. Now, this is why I like this. You're able to sort of go back through your catalog and look for every, and I do mean every Spider-Man ally wild card that you possibly can. And then just ask yourself, who do I want to buff today? Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to click Modern Age, and then we're going to go down to Spider-Man. Actually, Let me not do keyword. Let me just do the team affiliation. Let me just do Spider-Man, because that's a lot more. That's a lot easier. Okay, so automatically, the first thing that you should notice is Spider-Man and his amazing friends. Look at that attack at the would be the 200 point value when everybody's on there. That's crap attack. Okay, let's look at the possibly the 300 point value when everybody's on there. That's not bad. That's not bad. Okay, then you can look at, let's see, you got Daredevil from the prize support, Daredevil. So that's pretty good. Then you have the Fast Forces Spider-Man and his greatest foes. And let's take it down. Let's keep looking a little bit further. We can sort of dig up something that's a little bit better than that. Okay, here we go. We got I would say Armored Spider-Man from Civil War. Now you're able to perplex up his range to a 6. And now he has like a running shot 6 range or a 13 attack. So like that is really good. If you go to Iron Fist with a 13 attack from Age of Ultron storyline, like, oh gosh, or a 19 defense. That's really nice. And I'm not even talking about Spider-Man Ally, just straight up just wild card. So Spider-Ham, yeah, I'm not too gung-ho about that. I'm really not too gung-ho about that. But anyway, as you can see, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with that combination using J. Jonah Jameson. The more Spider-Man wild cards that come out, the more cool stuff I think that we're going to be able to see. But I think that we can... I'll say this. Is this a sleeper? Yeah. But I do think it is something that a lot of people need to actually dig in and invest in. Mainly because he can create a situation where you have a perplexer that that's going to survive. And in a lot of games that can be really huge. But anyway, I like it. But speaking of perplexers and utility and WizKids not making up their mind on how the game should be, we have Betty Brant. Now, Betty Brant is a con artist. I'm not going to front. Betty Brant is the halfway between a DEO agent and a con artist. And it would be like experienced DEO agent and rookie con artist. If you're not familiar with those pieces, just go look them up. And then you'll see what I mean when you look at Betty Brant. Betty Brant, unfortunately, requires a lot of nuanced play since how Perplex changed, since she only has a Perplex range of 6. Her having a 14 defend with support, needing a 5, almost makes her better than Night Nurse. Because Night Nurse, you're sort of sitting there the entire game waiting to use her. And you may or may not use her. While Betty Brant, you're pretty much guaranteed to use her. The problem is keeping her alive. The trait, I'm just going to be honest. The trait is pointless. The special power is okay. But it's really just full on the 3 colored squares on that short little dial. Perplex, defend, and support. That's really what you're paying those 15 points for. Everything else doesn't matter. Everything else doesn't matter. So, I like I said, I like this. I think that there's a lot to build on that. I think that if you are looking at where heroclix is going, this can be big. This actually is big. My problem comes back to, realistically, is, WizKids giving mixed signals. Like, WizKids, do you want us to have cheap Perplex, or are we supposed to pay for it at a premium? You can't go back and forth and being like, oh, Perplex is a premium power, which you have to invest, 50 points or more, then give us a 25.1, then give us a 15.1. And by 25 points, I'm talking about Jimmy Olsen, who was meta for a hot moment, and everybody forgot about him, and then he just disappeared because he's Jimmy Olsen. No one remembers Jimmy Olsen outside of Superman. Like, really ask yourself, in the long run of comics, what's the redeeming qualities or the most notable stories you could think of Jimmy Olsen, other than just being a counselor to Superman? The time, like really, like you have to find some outrageous storyline where somebody forced Jimmy Olsen to have superpowers and do something like. But in and of himself as a character, he sort of sucks. All right, let's keep rolling on. Now, I do believe Stiltman could potentially be something interesting. I still haven't seen or read anybody making anything super awesome out of him. So, yeah, like, you can get some good stuff from him. I just think that you're going to have to invest and find that yourself. There's not going to be anything immediate where people are going to tell you, like, this is how to break Stiltman. But I think I see it there. I just don't. I just don't think that most people are going to work on it. All right. Vermin. Just being honest, I like him just for the Vermin follow trait. The fact that he could possibly do 3 damage poison. That can be real strong. I just think a lot of people are not thinking about how to utilize that. Also stacking the fact that he makes Roundtable really good with popping out rat swarms, and the rat swarms are not great. Like, they don't have sidestep, so they're taking up one of your actions there to get into position. But other than that, they're pretty good. I think there's a lot to use there. You're dependent on your first click with Vermin a lot. But other than that, yeah, this could be really good. I don't know how they're going to rule it with multiple Vermins on a team. Because I could see that going really, really being really interesting, or multiple Vermins on a field. So, anyway, keep going on, and here we go. This is prime example of. I'm bringing up Mary Jane not as something to mine out, but as like here's my point. Okay, here's Mary Jane. She's 25 points. She's 3 clicks. She has Perplex. Why would you use her over Betty Brant? Why? And so that's where I see this huge problem. Is yes, she has this cool thing that works with Spider-Man, but that's it. She's going to get one-shotted. So why would I invest a bunch of points in her when I can easily, save 10 points that can turn into, ATA points or extra attachment or 2 ID cards or whatever. And yeah, like, why would I play her? So this is the problem, like, where I look at WizKids and I have to ask legitimately, like, WizKids, where are you going with support? Powers. Like, am I supposed to be paying high points for them, low points for them, or whatever? Because Mary Jane is a uncommon. Betty Brant is a common. Betty Brant on all levels is way better than Mary Jane. just all levels way better. So I don't see why I would spend the points on Mary Jane. So now some of you would say, like, I don't have to activate Betty Brant. I mean Mary Jane. So it's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. But still, like, unless you need like immediate timing, like I don't see how you couldn't wait to turn 2 to do whatever. So that's just what I'm thinking. All right, keep going on because I got to. No one's going to break Venom. Like, there's things that I like. Like, no one's going to break Venom. They're just not. Most people aren't going to invest the time to try to do that. With a 10 attack and 3 damage. The dial is slightly above average, but no one's really going to do much with him. Now, the question is will someone get bold and combine him with ants? And that's about it. But that's one figure where I'm just like, ugh, like, I want you to be good. I want you to be good. And I want you to, change how we play heroclix just for a brief moment. But you're not. I really want you to. But speaking of changing how we play heroclix, this guy will, Cottonmouth. Lead climb, super strength, toughness, 3 damage. Now, Cottonmouth is great because you use that sneak attack ability in combination with super strength. And now he can just move up 3 squares with a ghetto charge. Doesn't care about terrain, doesn't care about, opposing characters, and he's just like, yep, I'm going to hit you now. This is going to be a lot bigger issue in limited, or when people are looking for very inexpensive, secondary attackers, and they don't want to go and pick like an X-Men. And I know that might sound silly, like, oh, when I can pick an X-Men and they're going to be a couple more clicks deeper, and they might do this, that, and the other. I'm like, yeah, and the damage output is going to be lower. I mean, straight out, you're able to set it up from the beginning that he's going to do 5 damage. Where most X-Men at 50 points aren't going to do 5 damage unless your name is Colossus. And even then, the setup is a lot more difficult because Colossus doesn't ignore characters for movement. So now you're looking at, like, okay, do I pay 10 more points, get around the same amount of clicks and play Cottonmouth? Or do I play, Colossus for 10 less points? Now, again, if point economy is your thing, I can understand you going for Colossus. But when you really look at what Cottonmouth provides, is a guaranteed, like, I'm in your face, you can't stop this situation. I would definitely go for Cottonmouth at 60 points. Now, you can say, hey, Cottonmouth at 100 does a lot more damage, but yeah, look at that attack. That attack is a problem. So, yeah. Again, like, I see where WizKids is, what WizKids is trying to do. I can see it, but it's just they're sending mixed messages. There's to me mixed messages. All right, let's keep going. Norman Osborn, still wearing the mask underneath. At the beginning of the game, you may place a character named Green Goblin from your sideline on this character's card on any click. Choose a power on that click. Norman Osborn can use that power this game. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at some Green Goblins here. So we have 2 off the bat that we have access to, which is one from the Fast Forces, which gives us running shot, energy explosion, toughness, enhancement, close combat expert, sidestep, and regeneration. Now, that in and of itself, the fact that he gives you the option for upfront regeneration, is by far I would say the best element It's just if we are able to get anybody else that allows you to just steal or copy powers. Oh gosh, this Norman Osborn is actually probably broken, just for his point cost coming in at 50 points. Then we can go and look at the other superior foes, Green Goblin, the standard Green Goblin, and you can utilize his perplex, super strength, or sidestep. Where this becomes a really big deal is that when we start looking at Norman Osborn's first click, we are technically getting outwit and perplex. So that's pretty good. And oh no, hold on. Let's look also too, because we also have access to the special powers. So you can get enhancement. Actually, you can use a team of incompetence. I have to show the way. Green Goblin can use enhancement and perplex. So actually, this becomes way better because he can use a special power. So he can technically use enhancement, perplex, and outwit. That's good. That's really good. Yeah, that's really good. Add in the fact that he can be Dark Avengers or a Hammer ATA. Hammer not so much useful when you can look at that other Green Goblin to set up. That's really good. No one's really going to be looking at this, and it's easily accessible. The Sinister Syndicate TA is something that you can really build around. I don't think, no one's talking about this. So Norman Osborn, in and of himself, sets you up to do some really powerful stuff. And again, because the power says choose a power on that click. Okay. Norman Osborn can use that power this game. So you can either go and use the fast forces and get, that awesome regen click, or enhancement if you really are trying to power up your team in a very particular way, or you can just straight up just say, hey homie, I'm getting enhancement and perplex. Like, that's so good. Like, that's so good. Yeah, anyway, anyway, that's something. All right, so let's keep going, and I'm going to talk about another sort of slept-on character, and that is Tarantula. Now, some of you might be saying, "What? Why are you bringing up this 45 point character?" All right, so let's look at Tarantula real quick. 5 clicks, 45 points, low damage output. Okay, just straight up. Then he has leaping enhancements. Tarantula can use leap climb when he does and moves 4 squares or less after actions resolve. He can make a close combat attack. That's moving attack that no one can shut down. With the 3 clicks of sidestep, what that functionally does is create a 6-move charge. Okay. Then he has poison tip stilettos. Tarantula can use precision strike. When he hits an opposing character of 150 points or less after action resolve, deal that character 1 penetrating damage for each action token on it. Now, this is really good setup with Mitzelplick, so that you could just go in and be like, bloop, bloop. I hit you for, 1, and then now take, since you have 2 tokens on you, take 2. So I dealt 3 damage to you. A couple of things of why I like this, and I think that you can get a lot out of him. Number one, if he gets hit with any standard attack, he's going to go straight to blades. Not only that, with his point cost, you can afford to do various things with him, and at the same time, you're not concerned if he dies. He doesn't lose you the game if he dies. He's also a character that most people will ignore for a majority of the game. They won't think about why he's good. Now, I will say this. It requires a very particular type of build to utilize him. Mainly something that can protect him from range as he approaches. So, other than that, then, I mean, definitely, one of the better figures in this set to look at. Now, we're going to move on down. I'm going to say this. I like Scorpion. I really, really like Scorpion. I think that there's a lot that you can do with Scorpion. And at 50 points, he does something very nice. Is that he will confuse your opponent because he has Giant Reach 3. People will think like, oh, he can't hurt me right here, but he has Giant Reach 3. So he can just be like, boom, close combat expert from here. Like that's just straight up like close combat expert from here. Nothing you can do about it. I've got you. All right, let's talk about Overdrive and all the issues that come in with Overdrive. First off, Overdrive is a really great deployment. And everybody knows that. The issue with Overdrive right now is what I would call infinite drive. Okay, it's called infinite drive, and here's why I call it infinite drive. If you have Overdrive, he makes a standard object. He pretty much just makes a standard object into his car. Okay, once he does that, he can pilot the car. All right. So once he pilots the car, let's just say, boom, he knows he's about to get hit or whatever. Let's say he pops out the car. Your opponent chooses to blow up the car. There's a couple of things with this. Number one, since it's a POG, it's still a figure on the field, whether Overdrive's in it or not. Okay. The next thing that is interesting is, and I find this very amusing, is that if it's destroyed, since it technically is a vehicle because it has a vehicle symbol, it goes back to being a heavy. Okay? It goes back to being a heavy. Or, let me say, it turns into a heavy. So what you're able to do is get a light, turn it into the car. Once the car wrecks, it turns into the heavy, and then you have somebody pick up the heavy and hit somebody. So functionally, you can create 3 heavy objects on your team. The other thing that is very, very interesting about this is nothing stops Overdrive from just making a crap ton of cars. Okay, so let's just go back here. The world is my getaway car. Give Overdrive free action when he is adjacent to a standard object. Remove that object from the game and place a charged up bystander token in this square if there are none other on the map. Okay, so like, oh, boom. You blew up one before. All right, there's another object here. I'm going to make it into, I'm going to turn that one into the car now. You blow that up. All right, I'm bringing another one if there's another object. To make it so that Overdrive doesn't have the ability to bring in cars, you have to dedicate 2 shots. 1 to kill the car, because he's always going to have one, and 2 to destroy the object that the car turns into. So it's an infinite amount of cars. And even if you said like, hey, I'm not going to, do anything with the car, it's still a character. It'll still tie characters up. So even if Overdrive's not in the car, your opponent still has to roll breakaway to get away from the car. So there's other game effects that are really interesting. Is that like in particular, and this one is sort of one of my favorite, is that you combine it with ID cards, and now you have another character that's able to do ID card buff, like Shield, or like, hey, everybody has access to prob on our opponent's turn or something like that. Now you have an additional character for like almost no cost that's able to do that. So Overdrive is in and of himself is not bad. It's all the shenanigans that you can do with the charged up vehicle. That's really where most of your work and your innovation is going to come in at, is that charged up vehicle. But again, like, are most people going to be looking at that? No, they're really not. It's is that sort of sad? Yeah, it is a little bit sad. All right. Next up is Frogman. So let's talk about Frogman and why Frogman is a very, very interesting figure and what it does to the meta. Sorry, bounced into you again. Sorry. Frogman isn't dealt knockback damage. So there's no way for you to do knockback damage to him. Give Frogman a free action to knock himself back 4 squares in a horizontal or vertical direction. After action is resolved, if the knockback path was stopped by a character, doesn't say opposing, that includes friendly, Frogman knocks that character back 2 squares, which means that they would suffer knockback damage, which means that the only way for you to do that for some characters on first turn is to make it so that they act, thus violating first turn immunity, so that you can knock them back. Thus, you're able to do this with Mitzelplick by knocking him back into the wall, since he does not have damage reduction, or the edge of the map, or whatever you need to do. Alright. Now, is that an expensive setup? For 35 points, no. Not only that, in this situation, when we really look at them, there's only certain type of characters that you can really do this with. And number one is characters that don't have knockback protection, and characters that don't have damage reduction. So those two things are very particular when you're looking at Frogman as a meta piece. Is like, if you still, hit a person with charge, that's it. They're not going to move. Okay, so anyway, here's the second trait. When Frogman knocks back an opposing character, and that character is KO'd by knockback damage, after actions resolve, give an action token to all opposing characters within 4 squares of the character. 4 squares of the square the KO character last occupied. So it's sort of like a mini New Mutants team base effect. Okay. So, is that bad? No. Is it sort of hilarious? Yes. It being 5 clicks deep, is he easy to deal with? Not exactly. If you're not careful, you knock him on his last click of super senses, and then you have to deal with that. But other than that, is he OP? No. Where you have to start being mindful is how many characters that don't have damage reduction and don't have the ability to ignore knockback can he activate? And again, very expensive activation. 35 points over what we pay for Blind Owl. But if you really, really need an activation method, then this is it. Like, it's Frogman. I really don't know. I understand that you can do a lot of cool stuff with him, and the fact that he can move 10 squares, then knock himself 4 squares for free, means that he can functionally pick off like little people that you're not aware of. And I'm more concerned about what he's going to do to Pogs. And I know some of you might be saying, like, what? Like, yes, Pogs. So let's look at it like this. I have a bunch of Pogs. Let's just say I have like Devil Dinosaur Pogs. Something that doesn't have damage reduction. I then move up my frogman 10 squares, knock him to jettison forward or into a certain direction 4 squares, hits the certain, pog so that it hits a wall. Okay. And then it dies. Well, it's within 2 squares of all the rest of the pogs. So now all those pogs now have action tokens. Oh, well, wait, I did something with those pogs this turn. They don't have Indomitable. Oh, all my pogs are dead. Okay, so that's just something very simple of that can happen. And so, does Frogman disrupt any sort of formation play? Some of it. Not all of it, some of it. So I see, like, again, I see what WizKids is doing. I see it. But when you're giving me characters like this, that straight up is just like, oh yeah, I just knock people around. And I don't have to roll to attack. And I'm able to do free damage and possibly free 2 damage. That's when I start having some problems. So anyway, fast forward a bit. Here we go. Everybody looking at Handstand Spider-Man. Okay? And Handstand Spider-Man by far is one of the strongest figures in the set. First off, he has hypersonic speed. I mean, only to make melee attacks, but with super strength and a perplex means that at 100 points, you're looking at a 12-6. Like how can you front about that being, bad? You can't front. That's good. It's super good. Then you have the fact that you can even decide to go, oh yeah, I'm going to perplex up my defense. So now I'm at 19 with super senses. You add in a sloth relic, now you're at 20. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. Then you take it to the next step, which is his trait, which is he ignores elevated terrain and ignores hindering terrain. He doesn't ignore characters, which is fine. It really keeps him balanced. But the fact is that by far he's one of the more perfect call-ins that you can have. And if you're building a team with him as a main figure, not just a call-in, J. Jonah Jameson just makes him stupid because all he has to do is perplex up his defense to a 20, and Spider-Man perplexes his own defense to a 21. Like, that's really strong. Like, I don't know how many people see how strong that is. You also have trusty Spider Sense. Spider-Man can use super senses and can evade attacks made by characters using Precision Strike. When hit by a ranged attack, increase the result by 1. So from range, he evades on a 4 through 6. So that's, again, signature character, signature piece, fine. Spider's web, being able to just tie people up, and that's a lot of control. So here we go. When all is said and done, what can the Spider-Man do? He can hit you possibly for 6 damage with a 12 attack with the right character combinations, or even without the right character combinations. He can modify his defense to a 19. He has hypersonic speed for melee attacks. He's not that deep, but he has really, really good super senses. The only thing that you need to do is just add an entity on him that will allow him to get damage reduction or some other power that you need, like Precision Strike, and you're gold. You really are gold. And could he carry in a 300-point game with, an entity and a resource? In the era of Quinjets, no, he can't. And I'm just going to be honest with you, the listener, and the reason he can't is that there's still Black Canary ID card. I mean, that's it. But as a call in, he is by far the stupidest call in the meta outside of Wonder Woman and Superman, the Target Superman and Casey Superman. Yeah, yeah. So let's keep rolling. All right. Next up, I think the giant monster in the room is Devil Dinosaur. Devil Dinosaur has a couple of issues. The first issue is his early on movement. Number two is he can't heal back from his stop clicks, which really, really sucks. Which means that once he gets knocked past that, you're stuck with a 4-click, monster to sort of fend for himself. But here's what we have. The cliche villainous monologue. Devil Dinosaur can use toughness. And when Devil Dinosaur would take damage from an attack, he takes one unavoidable damage instead. This can't be countered or ignored. Unusual weapons of mass destruction. This is his movement power that he gets. Give Devil Dinosaur a power action if there are no bystander tokens placed by him on the map. Choose a type of bystander on this card you haven't chosen this game and place 3 of them within 3 squares in line of fire. And him being a giant, it's real easy for him to get line of fire. Now, if you're able to, like Nick Fury, blast him past that, he won't ever get to summon any more than 1 round of whatever he brings out. So just keep that in mind. But other than that, when Nick Fury fades out of the meta, this is going to be even more scary because there's no way for you to really stop him from dropping out 2 waves of guys if he's played right. And let me expand on that just a bit. So, like, the first thing that comes out with Devil Dinosaur, I don't think anybody's talked about, is the fact of, again, we have size manipulation in this game. And so since we have size manipulation in this game, you can easily make him tiny, which all of a sudden makes this dude way scarier than some people have come to realize. Yes, he has TK up front, and he can do this, that, and the other. No, forget that. It's not about the TK. It's about making him tiny, getting him into position. Once he's in position, or TKing him into position, then he power actions and drops, 3 guys on top of you. And then you're like, oh, hold up, I wasn't expecting that. And that's really sort of the key, is that most people aren't going to be expecting that. In particular, I gotta say it, the 2 strongest ones are the Homicide Crab and the Drop Bear. Now, the Rockabilly Modoc, it's no slouch, but really, when all's said and done, you're going to get more consistent damage output out of the Homicide Crab and the Drop Bear. Now, the Drop Bear is pretty cool because I guess they're koala bears. I didn't know that. Anyway, charge and blades, 1 damage, tiny size. Now, this is why I say you want to make Devil Dinosaur tiny so that no matter what you spawn out, he can hide behind it. Okay? Then, just having charge, 1 damage, combat reflexes. You know you're going to have a charge movement of 3, and you just go in blades. So if you're looking at any sort of point where you have, global buffs, like from your round table, this is the time where it's just awesome. Because it's like, oh, wow, I have, +1 attack or +2 attack, when making a close combat attack. Blades. Okay, if you roll a 3, or hell, if you roll a 2 or higher, you're doing more damage than your printed value. Okay. Then Homicide Crab, of course, is just Pulse Wave and 1 damage. But here's the thing that people may have overlooked is that A, you don't have to use pulse wave. B, you can easily like just put these suckers adjacent to Superman Blue and have them pulse wave adjacent to each other, and they can't be targeted by pulse wave. So you're hitting everything else besides, friendly crabs, as long as they're adjacent to Superman Blue. Okay, so that right there is like a automatic, like, wow. Okay. Then I know someone said like green light. Green light does some shenanigans or whatever. And let's just go check that out real quick. Now, here we go, green light. All right. Here we go. Friendly characters of 40 points or less can use toughness in the flight ability. So, as long as, I'm guessing as long as green light is outside of the pulse wave range, I'm guessing that they couldn't hurt each other. I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, let's keep going. Rockabilly Modocs. If the Rockabilly Modocs had one more range, and I do mean just one, they would be on par with the Homicide Crab. The Rockabilly Modocs, I think, are mainly set up that if you have like a Henry or a PD guy, these are great. Also, a lot of people might not have noticed too, is since they fly, you can, pick up other stuff, when you're making your attack. And so that's something else that can be good. Just to get somebody like over a ledge, these things can carry, unlike normal Modocs. Now, the other thing that we got to look at is that since these actions their move actions don't count against your action total, these guys can get in position, unlike Vermin's rats. So this is good stuff, just all over here. Yes, there's round table shenanigans, and I know someone's going to eventually make a team with an Ant-Man, a Devil Dinosaur, and a Rick Jones, and the team is going to be called, Watch My Spam, and I see that happening. I see that happening. Round table, Ant-Man's, Devil Dinosaur, Rick Jones, like so strong. And what's going to be sad is I just gave somebody a team and they're going to write me in. It's like, thank you, Dark Logos. I made that team and I want to rock. And it's like, gosh. Anyway, let's keep going. Oh gosh. Ares. Statistically, Ares at 125 is probably one of the strongest characters that you can bring into the game, statistically. Charge, 11 attack, 4 damage, easy to modify attack, easy to modify defense. He's on I would say, the pinnacle average, which the pinnacle average I would more say is this is what you need to be. Let me rephrase that. It's not pinnacle average, to be wrong. So he's on the exceptional average. The pinnacle average is for attack is 12. There really aren't any characters that they've made in the last few years that are standard characters that start with a higher than a 12. 18 defense. He has, average defense on the higher end technically. 4 damage. He's hitting the beginning of high end, because again 3 is standard. So he's able to make all his damage penetrating from a melee attack, and that automatically right there is great. The fact he can be targeted by outwit or probability control from opposing characters, unless you're a deity or a higher point value or a deity, that is really important, because it allows him to just say screw you, and screw you. I'm going to do what I want. when you stack the crippling blows effect just to a standard damage, he does a lot. So crippling blow, when an opposing character takes damage from a close attack from Ares, attach a slash marker to that character, removing it from anywhere else. When a character with a slash marker is given an action token, deal it 1 penetrating damage. When that character heals or clears action tokens, remove the slash marker. Now here's again free combos, people. Mitzvah and Ares, and right there you're able to increase the damage output and actually make it so that Mitzvah does damage when he lands his pulse wave thing. So there we go. Like, again, when are you mainly going to see Ares? As a call-in. Not going to front. You're going to see Ares as a call-in. You're not going to see Ares out there, chilling in the cut. It's like, oh yeah, like I'm just going to bring out Ares. Like, no, man, you're not just going to bring out Ares. All right. And I really wish they gave him super strength on the first click at least, because then that would have made him the scariest guy, like the scariest guy in the call-ins, in that 200-point call-ins. Would it make it so that you wouldn't call in Wonder Woman over him? No. You would call in Wonder Woman over him because Wonder Woman has similar stats but has super strength. But gosh, if you were able to if he had super strength at 200 points, he would put in work. So, all right. I know some people have said, what about Spider-Man Noir? I'm going to be honest about the chases. The chases right now are not that amazing. And I know some people was like, lynch him, string him high for saying that, just for saying that. But bear with me and hear why. Okay, so like look at Spider-Man Noir. Okay, so it starts off with special power. He has leap, climb, sidestep, and stealth. He has a 6 range. You're paying 75 points for him. 11 attack, 3 damage. Okay, that's not bad. 18 defense, super senses. Smoke cloud, sweet. Outwit, sweet. Spider-Man TA, sweet. Okay. Spider-Verse, you already know my opinion on the whole call-in help from the Spider-Verse. I don't like it. It's not dependable. Spider's Web, while it's nice, in this situation, it does not add to his value. So when you start compounding, he doesn't have charge, unlike 100-point Spider-Man. He doesn't have hypersonic speed. He doesn't have the ability to really get in there and land solid hits. I'm sort of set back, sort of saying to myself, like, like I can do better. Like I can do way better than this. Yes, you have improved targeting, can make ranged combat attacks even when adjacent to an opposing character. That's pretty good. There's only a few situations where that's actually useful. But I see why people like, oh, he's pretty cool. He is pretty cool, and that sculpt is boss. But realistically, as a character, he's not that good. Old Man Spider, no. I mean, you're using him. Truthfully, a friend of mine needed him when we played our 1,800-point game this last week, and he could carry a bunch of Spider-Man, Spider Family keyworded people, and just get them in a position. That makes him cool. But no. Spider Knight, like I said, you need a JSA situation or a defender situation where you can actually, make him good. That's what he needs. So he can give off that defense on top of the energy shield deflection. And Cyber Spider-Man, right now, he's not bad. And here's why: because he's a robot, he could be teamed up with Justin Zephyr. My concern is that if you look at all the other robots that Justin Zephyr can be teamed up with, why Cyborg Spider-Man? And I'm just being honest. And here's my other concern with Cyborg Spider-Man is not even looking at Krang. Like, just take Krang out of the picture for a moment. Let's just look at Batman Superman robot. Clicks of health, damage output, range. Why would I pick Cyborg Spider-Man over Superman Batman robot? So, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. Now, I know some people might say because that wild card ability will allow me to do blankety blank. Okay, cool. Fully would give you that. But realistically, why would I pick, Cyborg Spider-Man over Batman Superman robot? So, anyway. Yeah, that's it for today's show. Oh, real quick, Spider-Punk, he's still good. He can't carry. Like, he can't carry. I thought maybe two of them together could carry, and then I sort of encountered one in the wild, and I'm like, no, you can't carry. So anyway, that's it for today's show. I know, like, again, I apologize for not having stuff out. I'm reconsidering a lot of stuff that's just going on in life right now, and asking myself some serious questions about, like, where do I want to be in life, and what do I want to do. I have that teacher spirit. The preacher in me comes out time to time on the show, and sometimes I suppress that and he bleeds out, but the teacher in me enjoys doing this. But I'm sort of looking at the landscape of heroclix right now, and I'm starting to notice some key things. With the rate I was getting information on the quarry, Majestics and really 2Clicks has sort of come in and just done a better job. And I know there's some things that I've have to, like, look at and even talk with Howard about, but I'm thinking about just, like, what am I going to do with the quarry? I'm not saying the quarry's canceled. I'm not saying I'm going to stop doing the quarry. I'm just like, well, what am I going to do with this? Then even more so, I would say having more, like, good quality strategy podcast out there is great. It's a better resource than I had than when I came into being a podcaster, because technically, I know most folks don't know this. It's like, I was the first actual tactics podcast on heroclix. The first. Not like teaching you how to play, but actual, like, high level meta play. I'm one of the first. Actually, I am. Actually, myself and Glass Cabinet Films are, like, the first to actually, like, really interview, your winners from your events. Like, WizKids really wasn't doing that. And so I would say, like, Glass Cabinet made it more popular. Because, look at the view counts. You could tell how many people actually watch the show. So there's some things that I've definitely had to ask myself, is like, and then I've talked with a couple teammates about it, if I stop doing this show, just in period, because you can go and you can listen to pretty much the best teams and heroclix talk about heroclix, and Kevin Afruz and Scott Crampton on their show, which I don't remember it right now, and Apex Predators with Patrick. The only thing that's still giving me motivation is, for a lack of a better word, Kevin is not. Kevin and Pat aren't transparent enough to make people grow. And that is a huge thing. And I'm going to say this as much with a grain of salt and take it with a grain of salt as you possibly can. You can even say, hell, I'm jealous if you want to. They have no incentive to make you better. They have every incentive to make you interested and competitive, but they really don't have any incentive to make you a threat to them. And I'm just being real. There needs to be competition. And competition needs to have a chance for people to continue to compete. But one thing that I've noted is if you listen, and I mean like really listen to those shows, there's a lot of good factual content. There is not a lot of insight. There's like, here's your product. There isn't any methodology. Like and that's where I sort of I say like this show parts ways with that, because in particular, like I brought up on the show before, it's like, how many working parts can you deal with on a team? Like realistically, how many working parts can you, the individual, work with on a team? If you can't deal with 15 to 16 working parts, you shouldn't run a Quinjet team, even if it's dominating the meta. You should be then looking at, how am I going to engage in and take out a Quinjet team? That's what you should be doing then. But they're not really going to tell you that. They don't have. There's no incentive for them to tell you that. So again, some people might say you're hating, or you're jealous, or you're starting a conspiracy, or anything else like. And I'm not. I like them. I like Kevin. I like Patrick. I think what they're doing is far beyond what they did in the past, and they're giving great insights out there. But having seen it firsthand, giving out information just like, oh yeah, dude, used information and did well and beat me. I don't know if it will continue if it costs them wins. And so that's the only other motivation I have. And that's really one thing, like when I looked at doing the quarry, one of the main concerns I had about certain people being consistent hosts on the quarry was, would they give the listener correct information? Because there's a lot of incentive to give out bad, false information. There really is. When you're looking at higher level play, most teams are really based off of a surprise. Very few teams are based off of mechanics of the player actually deploying that team. Okay? A lot of them are like, surprise, you can't do this. Now I beat you because you could not tech against this. And that was definitely the mindset between 2012 all the way, I would even say, to 2015. A lot of the stuff that came out was just like super secret, not telling anybody, and yes, you just cannot beat this. And so anyway, there that was one concern that I had, was like, hey, misinformation. The second was, how much are you as a player who is a high level player willing to go out there and commit to revealing your secrets to the public? And how much are those are active things that the player actually can use, not on its tail end out, or everybody, that's in the know or in the higher end realm knows about it and how to beat it, and you're telling everybody else the introductory of it. Like, that's always been my concern. And And so like I picked previously, the people that I picked for the quarry specifically because they've shown to me like, hey, they know what they're talking about, heroclix and heroclix, and they also have every incentive of like breaking things down and showing the player like, I see this, I see this, I see this, I see this. These are all the things that can go down. And so, like I said, there's tons of things going on right now, in life, and lots of pressures, and definitely I didn't do a birthday episode, but my last birthday just made me sort of come back and think of about a lot of stuff that I'm going through right now. And I know this might seem like super personal. It's really rough when you see one of your parents struggling and you know that they'll never have a retirement, that they're going to work their entire life, literally to the day that they die. And certain decisions, it just stacks on you. And then you start asking yourself, well, what are you going to do different, and how can you save the situation, and this, that, and the other. So those things, they hit you. Fortunately, hey, everybody isn't in that situation. This thing I am dealing with. So, like I said, like I've had to rethink and deal with a lot of stuff lately. So, again, apologize. I've been gone for almost a month. Yeah. All right. So if you want to email me, you can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome, baby. If you like to buy a shirt, Phoenix Net shirt or Starting Over Podcast shirt, you can do so in the link below. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.